Bayesian rules in the Bayesian disaster. Two corollaries. It's June 7th, 2026. My name is Stefano Barone. I am a professor of statistics at the University of Palermo and an aeronautical engineer. I am doing this post to provide two important updates, I can say corollaries, on the Bayesian ship that tragically sank on the night of August 18-19, 2024 in the Porticello Bay. The first corollary concerns the widely debated issue of the wind that night in Porticello. The second corollary concerns the sabotage technique I assumed and which I have already discussed in previous videos. The state of the art. The Termini Imerese Prosecutor's Office, charged with investigating the sinking of the Bayesian vessel, which, as we know, caused 7 deaths and subsequently an 8th one during the recovery of the wreck, has announced that the assessment conducted by the technicians appointed by the court has determined that the weather conditions that night were adverse but not such as to cause the sinking of the vessel. This finding therefore confirms what I have previously argued through statistical and engineering analysis, which I have conducted and published in video presentations on my YouTube and LinkedIn channels. First corollary, the wind in Porticello the night of the Bayesian. Regarding the wind, I have repeatedly stated that a hypothesized wind of around 70 knots would have caused significant damage to the surrounding area, which I summarize in the phrase a 70 knot wind uproots trees and lifts the roofs of buildings. Well, it pains me, but at this point it's my duty to point out that these were exactly the same words used in a very recent national news report on the so-called whirlwind weather event that struck Rome a few days ago, where we unfortunately saw the effects of a strong wind on the area, trees uprooted and falling onto roads, roofs torn off buildings, etc. Absolutely none of these happened in Porticello that night. As I have already said from the beginning, the next morning the television reports showed a situation where the only interest was trying to recover any survivors from the sunken ship, but all around a very calm situation, no damage to people or property. The second corollary, the sabotage technique. The other aspects I wanted to address in this update concern the sabotage technique I conjectured, presented in a video in January of this year. It is based on the hypothesis that the sinking was caused by traction at the masthead using a synthetic fiber rope. I don't rule out the possibility that the rope was made of synthetic fiber but steel with a higher breaking load but characterized by higher specific weight. I still remain convinced of my conjecture, which is based on the assumption of an anchor stuck to the seabed and a pull on the masthead obtained by a rope pulled by a winch, which would have triggered a physically plausible motion of the ship consistent with the recorded AIS traces. The update I intend to provide here concerns a well-established ship sinking technique which can somehow be linked to the technique I conjectured. I found a very explanatory video of it published online 6 years ago. It is linked in the description of this video. Here in this slide, I have included a screenshot of that video. The sinking technique is called scuttling and has long been used to sink old and decommissioned vessels, which are deliberately, so to say, transferred and abandoned on the seabed, where they form a sort of artificial reef over time. Obviously, this type of technique is currently reserved only for extreme cases and is submitted to stringent regulations, for example, regarding the type of vessel and the precautions to protect the environment, particularly the sea. In the video, for those interested, you can see how scuttling is performed and how this operation can lead to the deliberate sinking of a large vessel in just a few minutes. Obviously, all of this must be carefully planned, organized, and properly executed, as I believe it was done illegally for the Bayesian ship. Thank you for your attention.